you are saying, 8 years maybe you need, or maybe longer or shorter, to go for your podium or for your Olympic Games or for your national team in the World or European Championships. Then, when you are on that level, the real elite athletes, and you are an example, Laurent, you were an example, some of you were all examples. What are you facing then in this dual career perspective? How the different careers, this time management, all these different obligations, what are the issues you want to raise on this topic, on the service of the dual career services, or what are the issues we have to improve in the future to make life a bit better, or maybe better balanced for the elite athletes? I start with you.
Yes, well, I think the first issue is actually finding the place where you can combine the two. So finding the right place and then being accepted at that place. So often it's very hard to get into a national Olympic center and train with the best athlete of that country just because you don't have that nationality. Even in my case, I went to Loughborough University, but I was only able to train with the university squad. They also have British swimming squads in place that train there as well. They get a lot of sports science support, a lot of filming. They get extra pool time, extra gym times. That is something that you as a foreign athlete don't have access to. So that is a first major issue. Then in order to combine the two, there's also various problems. I mean, if you're doing a degree that requires a lot of time, you have to do a lot of work, you have coursework, exams, and quite often those deadlines or those exams, they fall together with major competition times. Exams are usually in the summer. It's the same period that you have to compete at, let's say, junior Europeans, World Championships. So they often fall together. And then you require a system where you have a flexible assessment, where you can rearrange exams, where you have longer deadlines, so you get an extra week or two just to finish your work. So that's all issues that you encounter when you start going to university.
Did you know, or did your parents know, that the Loughborough University has all these sort of additional issues, or it was simply the name of this university sounds okay, let's go for this one?
Yes, well, the way I found Loughborough University was a lot of luck, to be honest. I think I mentioned it before. I started looking quite early, so more than a year in advance, and well, they must have done a competition very early in the season, so I discovered a lot of people from, or actually my parents discovered a lot of people from Loughborough University in the rankings. So that's why I started looking at it. I never heard of it before. I probably would have never heard of it if they hadn't done that early competition.
So, Laurent, you didn't know about the Free University of Brussels of Paul?
No.
No.
No. Well, there isn't a system, or there wasn't really direct contact persons that could direct you into that direction. As I said before, the sports people send you. I had a German coach, so he wanted me to go to Germany. He told me the main centers in Germany. We went for a visit. It was all very good. Training was good, coach was good, an absolute expert in his field. But when I went to the university, the lecture times were the same than the training times, so that could never work. How can I go to training and do my university if they are both at the same time?
Does it mean, sorry to interrupt so now and then, does it mean that your German coach was not aware of a university in Germany where you could do a more adapted program?
Yes, that's correct. Well, I'm not an absolute specialist on the German university system, but I don't think there is a system in place where you can combine them. And I think I have close friends or people that I train with that went to France. They had to stop their studies after 2 weeks just because there wasn't a system in place. So that's very hard. And well, I started looking at Loughborough University, and then it all came together. We went for a visit. It's not just that the university looks after the swimming, but it's the swimming or the sport that looks, there's different sports at Loughborough University as well, that looks after the university as well. So the training times were arranged in a manner that you could go to your lectures. It meant we had to go to training at 5:30 in the morning. But if you're willing to do it, then you can do it. They offer the possibility. If I would have gone to Germany or France, there's no coach that would go to a training at 5:30 in the morning. So there's stuff like that.
This story is maybe typical for swimming, or isn't it? Are the athletes here recognizing the story of Laurent?
Hello again. I did triathlon and studied law at the same time. Been to 2 Olympics. I specifically chose law at the University of Copenhagen because you only had to be there for the exams. And if there'd been something I was more interested in, where you could do the same thing, I would have chosen that. But as it was, law offers many possibilities, so I chose that. But
sorry, no, just Jeff.
Yeah, I think there is it's a connection between the question that was asked before. But when you are working athletes, there is a need for you to recognize your environment, which is the first step. Are you going to go to your federation? You see your federation as a regulatory body who deals with the rules, and that's it. Then you see as your club or as your league, as your potential employer. So who do you go to? That's recognizing the environment, and that's the most difficult because everybody is shifting the burden of the transition or the help or the support from one to the other. I'm not the club, it's not the coach, it's the federation. You should go there and you should go here, and you have to wait for 5 hours, and then you go, and there's another meeting, and at the end of the day, there is nothing happening. So where do you go? How do you recognize your environment? Who's here to help you out? And how come all those people from the same area and the same sector can work together? So it's related to your question from before. So that's the reality. And then talking about the parents real quick, if you look at professional athletes, I mean, I can ask you the question, were your parents professional athletes? They have no clue about sports, and that's the reality. Most of the parents, they have a regular work. You know, they don't know how it works, and all of a sudden you become professional, you have an agent, you have a marketing guy, you have 10 coaches, a strength conditioner, and all of a sudden it's a total nightmare for you and your parents to understand exactly the world you are living in. So of course they are important in the process, but also this moving environment around you doesn't help. And Debbie, when you're going to be speaking, I'm going to ask you, I mean, you had a pretty long career, and how were you supported all that time by your federation, your club, you're related to a university and so on? And that would be a really valid example for everybody around the table.
Just before I give you the floor, because maybe you remember the presentation of the study of this morning, which was saying, is there a need for a sort of label or whatever quality, let's say, system, so that athletes, coaches, parents could know in advance what sort of university or what sort of training sports center should be chosen for the future of their athlete, of their child. Is this something, I mean, you can raise awareness a lot, you can give a lot of information, but even then you could wonder what sort of quality Loughborough will have, even if it sounds okay.
This is the perfect bridge to say that. So we got specialized programs on an educational level. We got specialized or specialists on a sporting level. But what it needs here, especially in terms of choosing the right pathway, is professionalization and specialization on the DC, on a dual career level. So we need dual career specialists to show the way. It is not sport showing the way. It is not education showing the way. We need specialists to do so. And this is about professionalization of the field we're talking about.
Alison?
But if I can just add to that a little bit, just to say that I think we still come back to this bit about ownership and responsibility. And if in your country you have an agency or a body which owns and drives this, and this is where I think I can shout a little bit about TAS at the moment. It's about getting both the Federation, the sport, and the education side, and any other partners, to actually understand what collaboration at the highest level is what partnership is really about, in order to understand each other's needs and where there has to be the give and take between the sport and the education side. And I think what we're trying to do at the moment is to positively push that into place. So you may only be part of the dual career system within England if you are prepared to sign up to a certain level of cooperation, which will improve to significant levels over the next several years. So it's a commitment by all parties.
I would like to pick up the point Wolfgang has made. If I look at Belgium and I'll look at Flanders, the fact that we have started with one dual career expert who showed the way, who explained to parents in federations, in schools, what their options are, where to look for the information, but also looked at the schools and educations or universities, what quality do they provide. And yes, it took 2 or 3 years, but the system is now clear that parents can actually help their children, or in fact, much stronger, that a young child can actually learn how to look for information.
Yes.
But you need to have indeed ownership, and that's where I think that dual career is not owned by sports, it should be owned by education as well. And I'll come back to your example where you say, I choose Copenhagen because I only had to be there for exams. With all due respect, that's showing that education does not know what the Bologna process allows you to do. Because everybody can register just for an exam. That's an exam credit. So what we are lacking is within the world of education, people who fully use the system, not only for athletes, but for other people who want flexibility. So ownership should be here also within the world of education.
It's about ownership, it's about awareness. Tuli?
Can I disagree with you, Paul?
Of course.
Well, I
and then
think
afterwards we'll kiss up and
yeah,
make
I think
good.
the ownership should be in sports of dual career, because if it's separate, then the sport won't buy it.
It's not separate.
Yeah, but the ownership that we need in sport, we need for athletes to perform at their best, they need dual career. And I think that's why we need to have it in sport, the ownership.
Well, do not misunderstand me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that sport shouldn't do its best. But let me give you the example. I'm the head of the department at my university for elite student athletes.
Mm.
Once the athlete, Wolfgang, comes with me, he becomes my student.
Mm-hmm.
And I will look for the best for his flexibilities. So I need to take ownership as a university as well.
Yes.
Together
yes,
with
true.
the other partner.
Yeah.
So we will ask him, even at the age of 19, when he comes to university, bring your parents along. Because I want to talk with your parents. I want to make clear what's possible and not. Bring your coach along. Bring your federation along. So bring the entourage together before we talk about this dual career at higher education.
Yeah.
And that's taking responsibility.
Yeah, that's
think
because I think coaches are very important in here. Like if they are not in, then the poor athletes there discussing with you, if the coach doesn't agree, then it's probably he will go, the athlete will go with the coach. Yeah.
True.
Just to come back to the quality or what you can expect from a training center or a dual career service, that's quite an interesting topic as well, because it's awareness about where to go, but it's also awareness about what can they deliver, what sort of services I get in Loughborough or what I get in the INSEP in Paris. Highly standards, but are you aware of what are the conditions in the different training centers or institutes throughout Europe?
Yes.
You are.
Yes.
How many of you, Luxembourg Francophone people here, are aware about the INSEP in Paris?
There's an answer at the back.
Or
No.
yeah, you are from the UK guy, I think. No, but the question is simply raised because it was part of this study. If we shouldn't have more clarity on, let's say, the basic conditions, if you want to go abroad, We are asking about university. Parents are checking the university. What do they offer? Is this qualification or this master's a high value or a low value? Are we doing the same to the sport facilities or the sport services linked to that university? And are we aware of that? That's the question at the moment.
What I see from the European perspective is that, first of all, those who are willing to take that responsibility try to share that information, but you need the world of sports to help you to understand it. Secondly, the basic question is, how do you measure the efficiency or effectiveness of the combination? And what we are now looking at is what we called the number of credits you take and the number of credits you're actually succeeding to make. So Wolfgang comes to my university and says, I want to do 60 credits. I would say that's not feasible. He'll do 30, he'll get 25. That's a measure of the way in which it's possible to combine. And it's sometimes independent of the total package of flexibilities. Okay? So that's the first point. I'm sorry, Bart. But the second point is the world of sports says dual career. That's all well, but does it improve athletic performance? Or does it hinder athletic performance? Yeah, that's the question where they always come back to, because they say, if you want us to invest money in the system, let's not hinder the athletic performance level also. So that's where some of the research is already showing that it doesn't hinder, and the point has been made earlier, the fact that you're able to combine in a good way enables the development and possible maximum level of performance.
Okay, just to mention a concrete, it's actually your task as a researcher, but there is a study, quite a current study coming from Australian football. Don't ask me about the study design and how they did it.
How did they do it?
You're the one to answer that, Paul, but it showed that the sporting performance increased by 13 to 21% of the people doing off-field activities, including the dual career.
Just one topic, Laurent?
Yeah, if I just can add to that from my personal experience now at the, the late stage of my career, because I finished my master this year, and it was exactly 1 year to the Rio Olympic Games. So I could have easily chosen to say, okay, I'll be a professional athlete for 1 year, I'll do nothing else. But I actively chose to do something else because I fully agree that just having something to do outside of your sport helps you with your sporting performance. Because if you train in the morning, go home, you probably just lie around all day. That's not very helpful, even for just an athletic performance. If you just sit around, watch TV, play the PlayStation or whatever athlete, because that is the real life, what athletes do if they are just athletes. Outside of their training time, often they don't do anything else. That is something that hinders them in their athletic performance as well. And I think also that it's very important just for the mind as well to have something else, because if you just think about your training, if about your performance, you put so much pressure on yourself that it can be a hindrance to your performance in the end.
Thank you. I think not all coaches are convinced about that, but
I have a question for them.
A question?
I have a question for you.
Oh, okay.
What is the difference between missing a practice because you're injured or missing a practice because you go to school?